So the real thrust of this story has been who's gotten the money and what kind of connections do they have with the people who can make decisions on this sort of thing.
Welcome back to Closer Look on this Tuesday, the 14th day of October, with Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media. I'm Scott Sexsmith, Derek Turner in the room as well. Okay, since we last sat around this table, here's what's changed. Canada Post strike, done. I mean, they're rotating, but for all intents and purposes, it's done. The Tigers are out. The Jays are down 0-2.
Yes, a lot has changed.
Up is down, left is right.
I'm still recovering from that 15-inning epic game. Oh, my
God, my heart broke for you.
It was terrible. It was terrible. We didn't deserve to win. We had 58 chances in extra innings to score the big run. Didn't happen. Again, I don't understand why we put so much into this. There's no rational reason why I love this team so much, why anyone loves their team so much, but it just was a heartbreaking way to see the season end. But I did think the Jays would be just like rubbing their hands together, waiting for
licking their chops.
Seattle's coming from the West Coast. They've been partying, celebrating. They're coming in the red eye. They show up and they shut them down in game one and then destroy them in game two.
Well, like we just said, they're hungover, they're jet lagged, and they kicked the Jays' ass 2 nights in a row. Really bad.
That second game was a beating, and the Canadian kid Josh Naylor sending one deep into the night. You could hear his Mississauga cheering section on the first base line.
That's right,
as he's coming around. But, you know what? It was it's baseball, man. It's October baseball.
It is.
Did you see that crazy double play in the other game? The NLC?
That was insane.
I've watched baseball for 45 years. I've never seen anything like that. Not even close. I didn't quite understand what happened after I saw the replay. I was like, I didn't quite get it. So then watching it 4 times, I figured out what happened. But that's a great example of why instant replay is amazing, because they got the call right. It was the right call. Right? And the Dodgers ended up winning anyway. But
umpiring, that's a whole other last night apparently missed 24 calls.
Yeah. I can only imagine how many subscribers we're losing because we keep talking about baseball. But they are changing that rule next year. They are. 2 challenges, I think, on balls and strikes.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Surprised to see Canada Post back?
I'm not actually, because I feel like, and again, I'm no expert on this, but I feel like the union's getting the message that there's a lot of people there that don't support what their stance is on this, right? And so their message now is we're going to go back to work and we're going to try to win the public approval on this one. We're going to try to win the hearts and minds. I think it's a good move. People are frustrated. I was just about to mail a condolence card to a friend of mine whose father passed away, and we realized we couldn't mail it. Now that we can, people say, "Oh, nobody uses Canada Post," but everybody uses Canada Post. We're dropping stuff in the mail all the time.
Yeah, here's what I find odd. They went out on September the 25th. Today is October 14th. I got no mail today. So within 3 weeks, not a single piece.
But who's really saying? Were you looking for fan mail?
No. I mean, look, everybody gets bills, right? Like, give me a flyer, give me something to warrant this whole daily door-to-door thing. Anyway, that's another podcast.
It's a good point. Episode. It's a good point. Well, maybe we'll talk to Jim again shortly.
Jim knows the door is always open. Okay, today is going to be a wild one.
Yes.
Yeah, buckle in, folks.
Well, if you love political shenanigans, this is one. Our team at the Trillium at Queen's Park. For those of you who don't know, the Trillium is our bureau at the Ontario Legislature.
Right.
They do fantastic work, both on a daily basis and digging deep into big important stories about what's happening in the halls of power. And people have heard of this, I'm sure, over the last couple of weeks. The Ford government Skills Development Fund. It's I think it's a $2.5 billion skills and training fund, sort of help companies and organizations train their workers for the jobs of the future. And there's been some questionable use of some of this money, which tends to be the case with big pots of cash that governments dole out. This story kind of has it all. There's talk about leaf tickets and Parisian weddings and all kinds of things.
And even Drake.
Drake's in there too. So we're gonna get a good history lesson on where this program started, why it started, and what's been happening over the last couple of weeks from our team who's been breaking a lot of the stories.
Leafs tickets, Parisian weddings, Rob Ford's favorite nightclub owner, even Drake. This political scandal certainly has it all, and our team at the Trillium at Queen's Park has been following every angle. Joining us tonight for a closer look, our editor-in-chief, Jessica Smith-Cross, and reporters Charlie Pinkerton and Jack Howen. Good to have the band back together again. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, Scott.
Jess, let's start with you for the nuts and bolts. All of these stories revolve around the Ford government's $2.5 billion skills development fund. What is it, and who is supposed to benefit?
This is a fund that the government started sort of coming out of the pandemic. The idea behind it was to give out money to train up the workforce to meet the workforce's needs. So a lot of it has gone to unions doing training centers and towards skilled trades and stuff like that. Every year, the government has done a round of funding where people apply to get money to do this, and they've been giving out money for unions, companies, nonprofits, groups like that make their pitch, they get some money to do some kind of training. What we have been reporting on is that a lot of the recipients of these grants seem to have connections with members of the government or lobbyists that have connections with members of the government. And through the process of this, we've uncovered a lot of the groups that have been funding that nobody knew about before. Well, the government has talked about some of the funding that it's really proud of. It hasn't actually told everybody who all the groups are and where all the money has been going. That's what we've been focused on.
All right, Charlie, let's bring you into the conversation. The Auditor General had some things to say about this fund, and we'll get to that in a moment. But even before that, you and the team discovered quite a few things about the SDF. What did you find?
Yeah, well, I guess what I've been telling people is that this is the result of a couple of years of procrastination. And that I think we really started this work in earnest back in the spring. But once we, around the time that we sort of learned that the Auditor General report was coming, we, really ramped into gear here. So where to begin? We have the restaurateurs that, have a friendship with a longtime Ford aide. I think that was one of our earliest stories. They got about $17 million in funding. After that, we have the nightclub owner. That's someone who got $10 million in funding. That is what, Scott, you referenced saying Rob Ford's favorite nightclub owner. That's I would just encourage people to read more to get the history there. But there's an organization tied to the operator of a number of clubs down at Exhibition Place in Toronto that has gotten millions of dollars to fund their staff who work at those clubs. Where to next? Jack, Jess, any favorites of your own?
We found a lot of these groups. We can struggle to find, a public policy reason for them to get money over others in their fields. One of the examples that we found was a law firm run by the new chair of Metrolinx, the Metrolinx board, who the premier is called a personal friend. As far as we can tell, it's the only law firm in the province to get millions of dollars in funding. The only law firm in the province to get money from this fund, and it's got millions to train up its staff, which is something almost any business would want. Mm-hmm. So the real thrust of this story has been who's gotten the money and what kind of connections do they have with the people who can make decisions on this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Can I bring in Jack as well? I guess the average person doesn't really understand how you're looking up this stuff. Is it through FOI requests? Is there databases that show these? Maybe I'll bring Jack in.
Yeah. So Jess and Charlie have done a lot of good FOI work. It's really a hodgepodge. So a lot of the data that we're working off is through FOI requests in terms of who has actually received or which companies or organizations have received this funding. Some of it is public, but not all of it. And a lot of it is also going through the government's audited financial statements, which shows exactly where government funding has gone each year. So it hasn't been easy getting a hold of the information that was not already public, and we're still trying to get our hands on more.
Yeah, it's fascinating work. I mean, I get to see it firsthand, the kind of digging that this takes. Jess, can you speak to the question of this is an obvious question, but why is this kind of reporting so important? Why should the public know that this stuff is happening?
Taxpayer dollars. Mm-hmm. It really does matter, right? Everybody pays taxes and wants to believe that it's going to something that really matters, healthcare, education, whatever. They don't think that most taxpayers would want to see their money going to this kind of shady nonprofit that trains people to work in a nightclub by a guy that's known the premier and his for a long time. Like, that's the problem here. And that's the thrust of the reporting that we've been doing.
Jess, let's get to the Auditor General's report. What did she conclude about this program?
That it was not fair, transparent, or accountable. So what her office did was take a look at all of the money that has been spent. And they also had access to the application process that went on behind the scenes that we haven't had much insight in at all. So when people applied to this fund, nonpartisan civil servants, bureaucrats, looked at the applications and gave them a score, basically high, medium, or low, on whether they were deserving of funding. They'd look at stuff like, is this organization actually capable of delivering what it's promised? Does the promised goal achieve a lot? Does it align with the province's plans here? And what she reported is that when the minister's office, now this is the political side, Labor Minister, the current one's David Piccini, and the staff that work, the political staff that work in his office, they decided to fund groups that civil servants had scored low and medium and not fund groups that had scored high. So they basically overruled the nonpartisan advice and picked and chose what groups should get funding. When Charlie mentioned his first story on this big restaurateur company that had a really well-connected lobbyist and got $17 million worth of funding, they were scored low. And that's one of the first things that Charlie learned by FOI. The Auditor General had the whole picture and was able to say that the minister's office, the political side, had really had their fingers in and picked who they wanted to have funding.
Jack, how did they justify that? Does the Ford government say, look, yes, we listen to civil servants, but ultimately it's our call?
Yeah, exactly. The minister has been up a couple of times to face the media, or at least once. And he's defended the program. Obviously, there have been some tough questions in the wake of the Auditor General's report and our reporting. But he said, look, this has changed lives. This has trained people. And he relies on a few anecdotes to illustrate that. And has basically doubled down on this program.
Charlie, after the AG's report, you learned a lot more about some connections between David Piccini and some of these lobbyists, including quite a story about a wedding. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So on the day that the AG released her report, that was October 1st, I believe. And so just a couple Wednesdays ago. And the auditor released, her office released 4 reports that day. And so as is typically what happens on days like these, a number of the ministers who oversee the ministries that are relevant to these reports come and, basically respond to them, take questions from reporters and whatnot. On that date, it was a little odd, I guess. It certainly stood out to, a number of the reporters there that David Piccini, the labor minister, was the lone minister who was answering questions remotely. They basically had him up on a TV, just like the three of us are doing this interview with you right now. Anyways, things didn't, really click to us then, I don't think. But, so that day was a Wednesday. It was it was a Friday that we were told that he was actually in Paris. And over that weekend, we learned about, and, for the most part, we're able to confirm, including, into the next week a little bit, which was last week, that he went to Paris that weekend for the wedding of a longtime close friend of his who happens to be the lobbyist and is registered. Last I checked, he was still registered for 2 companies that had received Skills Development Fund grants. And, that it certainly seems like a choice at that time. I'm sure the wedding was planned long in advance, but that is certainly something that's struck a chord and, led to the story after that, which I'm sure we'll touch on too.
Well, what do we move to that story
Sure,
first?
yeah.
Let's touch on that one. Who wants to pick up from there?
Yeah, the Leafs game.
Yes.
That has to do with the same lobbyist. So that lobbyist lobbied for 2 companies. As Charlie said, he's still registered. And the labor minister, David Piccini, was seen a couple of years ago, a few months before he was a labor minister, in glass seats at a Leafs game with one of the directors of one of those companies. This is a company that the minister has actually put forward as an example of the good work that that the program is doing. He said it was lower scored, but his office picked it anyway. He said he has personal final say over that. He talks to his staff about which agencies to pick or which companies to pick. And he said that this particular company, it's building an AI-driven mental health platform for police, and he's put that forward as an example of the good work the program is doing, without noting that this was lobbied for by a friend of his whose wedding he attended in Paris, and he attended a Leafs game in the front row or close to the front row with the director of that company.
Yeah, and we're talking, this was a $7.5 million grant, this particular one involving Leafs game. The average Joe sees this photo of the minister at the front row of the Leafs game, which is pretty much an unattainable place in the world for most people to get to a seat like that. What do we know? Like, did he accept free tickets from this person, or did he buy? Like, what do we know about the tickets?
His office has said he paid his own way to the wedding and for the Leafs game.
Okay.
We don't have proof of that, but we have no reason to doubt that.
Okay, it's just one of those photographs. It's great. Says
picture.
1,000 words. Go ahead.
Jess, what has reaction from the opposition been?
Oh boy. They've enjoyed these stories. My conversations with some of the opposition members, they actually seem personally pissed off about it. I'm sorry, can I say that on this podcast?
Yes. We'll see if anyone writes in about it.
Yes. Yeah, they've definitely made as big a deal possible as they can with this information, and some have really emphasized their personal feelings about how this kind of stuff makes them mad. We expect that when the House returns next week, we're going to hear a lot about the Skills Development Fund from the opposition benches.
And I know you guys have touched on it, but what's been the defense of the government? What are they saying to you, this reporting to the AG's report? Nothing to see here?
Basically, that the minister is retaining the final say on who gets what funding. The program was designed with this kind of flexibility in mind, and it's doing good work and training people with the skills they need for today's job market.
Jack, so what's next? Could the integrity commissioner be called in to investigate?
It could be. Has someone requested that officially? I don't actually know. Do you guys know?
Yeah, so no one has requested that yet. I don't think the opposition parties have been keeping it much of a secret that, one, if not both of those that have party status here, that's the Liberals and the NDP, will likely be, filing a complaint. Those complaints do take time. To be most successful, it sort of requires that an MPP submit various pieces of evidence. And so I think that's what's happening right now. So whether it'll be a week, 2 weeks, a month, I don't know. But certainly I think that is something that we'll see eventually.
And in the meantime, we've got more stories coming.
Yes, I can imagine by the time we hang up the phone and this actually goes to air, there'll be more stories on the site. That's just the kind of reporters you all are. And all the coverage we often hear echoes of the green belt. That this is it smells like the green belt, sounds like the green belt. Is that a fair comparison? I'll ask whoever wants to take that question.
I guess what I would say is that, as Jess sort of said earlier about how this is people's money and it's just taxpayer money being given as grants. In that sense, I think it's a lot simpler than the green belt. This hasn't reached by any means the scale of controversy that the green belt did. It certainly seems like, at least for us, with a lot of stuff that we continue to work on, because as I said, this is work that began a long time ago, that there is a lot yet to come. But yeah, I think it's actually a lot more straightforward than that whole controversy, because it's hundreds of different grants of millions of dollars just given it out. In a pretty straightforward way.
Yeah, Charlie's right. But as you say, it's it's similar to the Greenbelt in that it's insiders, it's people with connections benefiting from government decisions in a relatively straightforward way.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly the opposition has made no secret that they would love to draw a parallel between this and the Greenbelt.
You talked about other stories to come. Now that this is sort of between your reporting and the Auditor General's report, what's next? Are there other places we can be looking for this? What are there other public documents that could be unearthed here? What's the next steps, I guess is what I'm asking. Jess, I can leave that to you.
Sure. We have filed a whole bunch of FOI requests for more information to come. So the whole metrics that the Auditor General had access to that we didn't, we've certainly asked for. And we also don't know exactly what's to come from other media outlets. We've been doing a lot of reporting on this. There's been some others, but we are among the few who have it's not even a complete, but a mostly complete list, a partially complete list of who received what in each round and what funds they got. So we've been able to do this work when a lot of other reporters just don't have the foundational information that it takes to look at the grant, figure out who was connected, and then do a story if it's worth reporting on. And we were in that position because Charlie filed an FOI request a long time ago for a couple of rounds of funding, and we've pieced together the rest as best as we can.
Okay, one thing we didn't touch on, Drake. Jess, to you, what's the connection?
Yeah, it's a bit tangential, but a producer who's worked with Drake his entire career and sort of co-founded his record label was one of the co-founders of a nonprofit that got money from the Skills Development Fund. It looks like there was supposed to be a $4 million grant in the third round. This not-for-profit, after receiving the money, at some point has shut down. So as a corporation, the province has gone to revive the corporation, claiming that it owes it money. And when we sort of looked at the details of this group called the Justice Fund, we lined them up with an example that the AG had given in her report that talked about this company that had scored low, been chosen anyways, and then failed to deliver on its goal, which lines up with what the ministry has briefed us on. So basically, this group launched with big fanfare, at an OVO summit. Drake's producer, we're going to do all these great things. There was all these partnerships launched, and pretty soon afterwards it was dead. Now the province says it wants its money back. The minister's rationale that it's a good thing for me to be able to choose low-scoring companies and give them a shot. He likes to talk about groups that have done well when that's happened. There's a group that trains people with developmental disabilities. He loves to talk about. He doesn't love to talk about this group, right, where they weren't able to prove to the ministry they did what they were supposed to do with the funding to the ministry standards, and now the ministry is trying to get its money back.
Are they trying to get all $3.3 million back, Jess?
I don't know that for sure. They were able to say that they are a creditor, so like they're owed money, but they didn't say how much.
Do we have any idea if there are others that their government's going after now who's saying they didn't do what they were supposed to do and we need to get their money back?
No, and the only reason that we found this in the first place was a really deep dive into the corporate records for the corporation. If you request all the documents, you'll see this like certificate of revival and the Ministry of Labor listed as a creditor. It's kind of deep into the document that we've been doing that we got that one.
All right. Good stuff from the Trillium. Jessica Smith-Cross, Charlie Pinkerton, and Jack Cowan. Guys, good to see you as always. Thanks for this.
Okay.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. You too.
Always appreciate when the gang at the Trillium hops on Closer Look. Nobody does it like they do.
They're fantastic. And I know we've told this story many times, but they've been here a few years now, that team.
Yeah.
And they kind of came on board very quickly at the time. It was a big decision. And it's very rewarding to see the work that they do. And as Jess said, they're doing this kind of work because it matters to taxpayers. Because their tax dollars hard at work, as they say. And people deserve to know where that money's going. And I just, from experience, I can tell you the drive and the you have to spend all that time FOIing documents, going through thousands of entries on spreadsheets and trying to find those connections. It's extremely rewarding work, but you have to be extremely passionate to do it as well. So I guess what I'm saying is when people see these stories appear on the Trillium and then oftentimes appear on our local news sites as well after they run on the Trillium, they don't just come out of thin air. They come out of a lot of digging, a lot of talking to sources, a lot of making sure they have their facts straight, and they're very important. They're very, very important pieces, and that's why they get the attention they get.
All right, good stuff. Closerlookpodcast.ca. Closer Look at villagemedia.ca if you have any questions or comments about the program. As always, we would love to hear from you. For Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief, Derek Turner in the corner keeping things under control for us, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching. We're back tomorrow night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.